Well, hello everybody, welcome back. I'm really glad you could join me once again. So I'm just here in my garden in Edinburgh and I'm doing a bit of sweeping. At this time of year, the leaves from the garden opposite come into my courtyard and it is a weekly task of sweeping them, and I always think it's best to get on top of it before it becomes a big problem. So I'm out here. It's not the most beautiful day, it's quite grey and dull, but it's still pleasant and I'm enjoying it. But as the autumn season is now in full swing, I just wanted to invite you into my home for the pleasures that this time of year brings. A time for hunkering down, enjoying the simplicities of life, and just making the most of closing the doors and being in our homes to make them cosy and wonderful. So welcome and join me. So on a crisp autumn day like this one, I crave comfort. And for me, nothing says comfort quite like a freshly baked cookie. I've come up with a delicious recipe for whisky cookies, whisky chocolate chip cookies, and I think they're the perfect thing for a day like this when you just want to hunker down and hibernate. So I'm going to show you how I make them. Now, before we begin, I wanted to explain the reasoning behind creating this recipe. Here in Scotland, whisky is a huge thing, and I know actually in the United States people are very fond of whisky because we get a lot of tourists coming here to do the distillery tours up in the Highlands, so I know that a lot of people do love whisky. For me, it's been something that I've been learning to enjoy over the past year or two, and I just thought, what could be more autumnal than a beautiful tot of whisky and making it into a cookie? And then with ingredients like brown sugar, maple syrup and chocolate chips, especially white chocolate chips, you've got that combination of really earthy autumnal flavours that are just perfect for this time of year. So I thought I have to create a cookie out of these things, and so I've tried this recipe last week. It turned out really great, so I wanted to show it to you now. So we have a few ingredients. We've got milk chocolate and white chocolate chips, butter, superfine sugar or caster sugar. We've got some pecans, brown sugar, maple syrup, vanilla extract, baking soda, and of course whisky. So let's begin. This is a very easy cookie to make. It doesn't take very long. You'll have them done and dusted within the hour and you can enjoy them as soon as possible with a lovely cup of tea. So to begin, I'm going to start by adding in our sugar. We've got brown sugar, caster sugar or superfine sugar, and then we're going to add in our butter and cream these together. So you use the paddle attachment on your mixer. Now to this, I'm going to add in an egg. And we're going to beat this through. How glossy that is. And now we're going to add in the three wonderful things, my favourite things of the whole recipe that make the recipe: the maple syrup, and try to make sure you get every last drop of that goodness out of there. Don't let any go to waste. Vanilla extract, And then the golden nectar whisky. Really gorgeous boozy cookies. And we're going to mix all this together again until smooth. Just look at that. Wow. Looks like a delicious ice cream. Okay, so now we're going to add in our flour, baking soda, whoops, and just to bring out all of the wonderful flavours, we're going to add in some salt. Adding our whisk attachment, and we're going to mix it all together now, so it all comes together. Now the best part, our chocolate. And our pecans. Okay, I've got a baking tray which I've lined with parchment paper, and now we're going to simply scoop the dough onto here. And I have to say, if you are somebody who enjoys eating cookie dough, this is probably the most delicious one I've ever done. It is, I could eat the whole thing. You have to be very, very disciplined. Wow. So we're going to get a clean spoon. Just level this off as best as possible, and just going to press those down a little bit. So easy to make. So easy. So they do spread out quite a lot, so I only want to do about 6 on here so that they don't all merge together. So I'm just going to space them out very nicely. You can make about 12 cookies from this dough, so just put 1/2 in now, unless you have a bigger baking tray. I don't, so I'm just going to use this, and then we'll put the other half in later on. So, time to bake them. 10 to 12 minutes on 180 degrees, and they will be ready. So one of the things that I was really craving to do whilst I was away travelling was to get home and make the house all cosy and lovely for autumn. And one of the things that I really wanted to do with that is make my own autumn wreath for the front door. Now, it is almost the 1st of November, so Christmas decorating is going to begin very soon. So I wanted a wreath that I could enjoy for 1 or 2 weeks, just for a few weeks, and then get on with my Christmas decorating. So I've only got a quite small, this is a 30 centimetre wreath ring, a willow one. And I went to my florist today, and she had exactly what I was looking for. I wanted something a little bit different. I didn't want all of the, you know, the obvious reds and oranges and deep aubens. I wanted something magical. And I saw these, I've chosen these few things, and it really gave me a very, you know the film Practical Magic with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock? It gave me that kind of vibe. It just seems magical to me. You've got this beautiful, very deep purple, and then the green of these crispy little flowers. And again, I don't really know the names of these. She did tell me, but I'm hopeless with them, as you will know. And then we've got some lilac
and then some dark green. And I just think these are such beautiful colours. And even though they're not typical wreath, what would make up a typical wreath, they will look great, and I can enjoy them for a few weeks until it's time for Christmas to come into full swing. So I'm excited to start. And with a wreath ring, it's very simple. I've made these a few times, but the first time I ever did, I was panicking about it and then thinking that it'd be very difficult. But honestly, just get started. It's so easy. You need a wreath ring, some florist wire, your little foliage, and some good secateurs or scissors. And just choose what you like, and I'm going to show you now how I make this. So 5 years ago, when I wanted to make my first wreath, I spent a few hours perusing YouTube to find a great method. And some people like to attach the wire to the ring and then add the bits on and go around, which is not a bad idea. I've done that before, it works quite nicely. But the easiest way, I think, is to create your bunches of arrangements, tie them together with the wire, and then add them onto your ring. It makes it just so much easier. So that is the way that I do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start making up bunches of little posies that we can stick on to our wreath. Now I need to be mindful that I don't have a lot to work with. My florist is amazing, but I went at the wrong time and there was only so much that I could get. So I'm just going to start off with some of this dark green. Then we'll take, here I've got some of this lovely wispy lilac flower. And what happens is when you do this, you will think at the beginning that it's not really working and how will it come together, but it always does. It's the joy of doing this, is just, getting on with it, not worrying too much, and you'll find that it actually all comes together beautifully. So what you need to do as well is arrange your little posies and make sure that they're all the same length. Oh, it's already looking quite beautiful actually, even like this. And also I do have some hydrangeas in the garden so that have dried out really beautifully, so that if I need some extra I can. And this one is very fluffy, so this one, maybe I need to separate that actually, so I don't use all of it in one go. There we go. That's the thing that I do, I get excited and I want to use all of it in the first batch, which is not the best thing to do because I have nothing left for the others. And I think I'm just going to add in a little bit more. I think I'll just add in a little bit more of this. It's a lovely autumn day here. Beautiful sunshine. Okay. And then when you have it in your hands, you can kind of play around with it so that you perhaps fill it out a little bit more. But really, just go with the flow. Okay, now take your wire and you can secure this together. And you will find that, florists are very, very talented. They do an amazing job. But you can actually do this on your own as well sometimes. So I like to get it nice and tight to make sure that it's all locked in place, and then I cut off the edge. And then I'm going to trim this off so that it's all the same length. And you have one little posy ready to attach to your ring. Now, what I like to do is I like to make up my poses first, and then I add them onto the ring. So you can choose the best order. You can mix them, you can swap them around if you're not happy with something. Whereas if you attach it on, you can remove it at a later point, but I always think it's best to have them free. So I'm going to go ahead and make a few more poses with my lovely, lovely foliage that I have. And you will see when you do this that these things will manipulate and bend as you want them to. They do behave very well. I always like to leave these little magic wands. I look like Glinda from The Wizard of Oz. To the end, because they're little fillers that like to pop out like that. And then, so start with all of your bushier things. I think I'm going to need about four poses to finish this ring. I've got a little bit of this green. Honestly, I need to start learning the names of these plants because I'm supposed to be a YouTube expert and I never know what the hell I'm talking about. But what I always say to everybody is, I'm not an expert, I never have been. I'm just exactly like everybody else who's watching, and I like to try new things and to see how it goes. And you know, you don't need to know the names of everything when you're doing these things. It's just about what's bringing you pleasure and joy. That is what I always say. If you only do things that you are very knowledgeable about, you're going to limit yourself in life. And that is something that I do not like to do. I like to grow and learn and practice and enjoy. That's what life is about. Okay, time for a little beauty, and look how that just gives it a pop. Gorgeous. And we'll add one of our Glindas in here. See, you can even make up your own names and it will work well. That's my excuse and I'm sticking with it. Okay, and we're going to wrap this around our posy. So this way, you may be able to hear in my voice that I haven't got it now. I've been suffering this week with a little bit of a cold. Today was the first day that I've kind of felt back to normal. I'm still a little bit low on energy. So doing a little task like this is something that is not hard, it is easy and it brings pleasure and joy. So it will really boost your mood and give you that little dopamine hit that you need when you've been suffering with a cold or something. But yes, it's been difficult too. When you have all these plans and then life comes along and deals you with something, even just like a cold, which isn't a major thing, but it does stop you in your tracks. So we have 2, and I reckon we're getting through this very well. I mean, if you put these 2 together, you can see you can make them fuller, but I'm just a bit concerned that I don't have enough, so I'm going to be careful and not use all this up too much. And if I can at the end, if I have some left over and there's more, I can perhaps bunch some of these together as well. Also, what you can do, because that's what I'm just considering now, it might be what I have to do, if there's not enough, you can go halfway around and leave the raw edge. If you have something like willow, it looks beautiful. So that's a good tip as well. So hopefully now you can get the gist of what we're doing. We're just making up poses, individual poses that we can attach onto our ring, and then we'll be able to see how we're going to configure them all together. So I'm going to get on and make the rest, and I'll come back to you when we're ready to attach it onto the ring. So I have all my poses ready. I've got a mixture of ones that are a little bit thin and ones that are a bit more full, but I think this is going to work very well. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you put all these together, they look quite beautiful. Gorgeous colours. Let me come to you and show you this. You can get to see them beautifully close up. Purple, lilac, little brown. It's just such a beautiful mixture. So now I'm going to arrange these around our ring as best as I can. I'll just mess around with it a little bit until we find the right shape. And the great thing, because these are all quite, they're not woody stems, you can manipulate this quite well around your wreath ring to get a great shape. So I'm going to get started and do this now. This is the most fun part. So as I said before, have a little mess around with what you have, figure out the best spot to place each of these, but what you want to do is you start here like this, and you can see we've got the metal wire, so each posy will cover the previous wire on our ring, and then you work round like that until it is all covered up. And you can see it does look quite beautiful. That should work really well. So here is the finished wreath. Now, I'm going to hold my hands up. It's not the very best one that I've ever made. It's quite sweet, but I think you need to make sure that you have enough flowers, foliage, whatever you're using, because then you can really cover all these areas. Otherwise, you get this look where it it doesn't look so bad. I guess here it looks a little bit flat, but it's okay. It's quite nice, and for a homemade effort, it is fine. And you know what? It's going to be Christmas in a few weeks, so this will look great on the door for a few weeks in November, and then we're going to move on to the festive period. So I am happy with how this looks. I think the colours are really beautiful. Very, very beautiful. And it will look great on the door. So yes, a very easy wreath. Actually, the more I'm looking at it, the better it is. I do think it's quite pretty, actually. Yes. So yeah, there we go. So I'm going to hang this on my front door and see how it looks, and I will show you when it is done. What a lovely autumn day.
Well, all that's left to do now is to try one. I've got my Earl Grey tea here. We'll have a little sip. Warm tea and a slightly warm cookie is always a wonderful thing. So here we go. I'm excited to try them. That is truly wonderful. If you like a slightly chewy cookie that's crunchy on the outside, that is the texture. And then you just hit with all these flavours. Smoky whiskey, the sweetness of the white chocolate, and then the nuttiness of the pecan. And then you also get the rich flavour of maple syrup. Truly autumnal, beautiful cookie. Heavenly. I will put the recipe in the description box, and I'll also post it on my Substack if you would like to save it or print it out. Amazing.
So here is the wreath on the door. You can see the details of it more closely. And I really love it with the snail in the middle. I'm just going to come out here so you can see properly. Very cute, very sweet. Looks quite beautiful. And I love the colours on the door and with the gold snail. Yes, I'm happy with it. Looks great. A lovely, lovely thing to do. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope you've enjoyed the show and that it's inspired you to enjoy autumn at home, wherever you are. I look forward to seeing you next time, but until then, take care. Bye-bye.